Hello, I'm Jordan Midler and welcome to Radge Quit, a show about video games. Cuphead should be easier. Now I know what you're thinking, Jordan, games today are for gaming professionals, not tragic noobs like yourself, and as charming as that sentiment is, that's not really what this video is about. It should be called Reasons Cuphead Should Allow Players to See Its Content Without Being Amazing at the Game, but that's not really that catchy. Cuphead is a magical game. Its art style is so good that if I could plaster my entire house with screenshots I would. The music is so good that I'm actually considering buying the £100 LP collection of its soundtrack. One, because well, I'm an insufferable hipster wank, and two, because its use of jazz and raglan is every bit the creepy yet twee romp that screams very early Disney cartoons. The backgrounds are so dense that light bends around them. There's nothing I can say, there's no hyperbole that can do the game more justice than, well, this.
Well, Cuphead and his pal Bugman, they like to roll the dice. By chance they came on Devil's Game, and gosh, they paid the price. Paid the price.
So aye, it's amazing, I love it. It's also hard as well. Anything, name something, Dark Souls, a rock, the rock. The point is, it's very hard, and I ain't no casual, I even got past this bit. Anyway, the point is, I can play it without much problem. It's challenging, but I generally know how to beat bosses after a few attempts. It requires skillful execution, but it's nothing too ridiculous. The game has a simple and normal difficulty. The simple difficulty changes fights and removes a few forms, but in order to progress into the second and third world, you need to beat the levels on normal. That's not fair. I don't think the people that aren't skilled enough to get through fights that are way harder than the average game should be blocked from seeing 2/3 of the game's content, just because they aren't amazing at it. Unless you were really dialed into games culture and knew what Cuphead was before buying it, there's very little indication of just how hardcore it is. It'd be like going to the shops to buy a John Denver CD and then when you get it home it's Cradle of Filth. This isn't usually a problem, but because a huge draw of the game is its art style, I could easily see a more casual player buying the game for that, or maybe someone that doesn't even play games that are just a big fan of animation or classic Disney. For all that amazing art to be gated behind an extremely high difficulty seems unfair, especially when they literally include a lower difficulty but don't legitimise that progression by allowing players entry into later worlds. It's like if they let you set an easier driving test under the one condition that a third of the way to your destination your wheels are going to explode. It's kind of similar to when people talk about whether Dark Souls should have an easy mode. For the longest time I held the get good attitude, but the more I think about it, that's just selfish and incredibly stupid. What if someone isn't physically able to conquer the rapid response button presses necessary in a lot of those games? Does that person just not get to see those parts of the games that they paid for? Also, it's not like my game gets any easier or changes just because there's an option for someone to play it on a difficulty that suits them better. Making a game hard at the expense of not being inclusive to a potential new audience isn't really worth it. The more people that can play all games, the better. There's a brilliant video by Naughty Dog that talks about a disabled fan that wrote to them after being unable to play a part of Uncharted, and it made them totally reconsider accessibility in their games. All games should look towards that as an example of how to include everyone in their art. That begins with making things like Cuphead's simple mode actually mean something, rather than being an illusion of a difficulty setting. In any other circumstance, I would recommend Cuphead to literally anyone, but it's just a bit too hard for me to say to the average gamer, go ahead. Especially to someone that doesn't play a lot of games. Even folk who would consider themselves gamers have told me that they're turned off by its difficulty, which is a real shame, because the amount of effort put into every single frame of the game deserves to be seen. Anyway, what do you think of Cuphead, of difficulty in video games, of John Denver versus Cradle of Filth? Hot button issues. It'd be great if you could subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I'm Jordan Midler. I'll see you later.